Hi, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast.
We are the Carwells.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Sarah, and we are, as you know, Airbnb interior designers and investors. Welcome back, everyone, to our channel. I'm going to start this episode with just apologizing. I am literally in a construction zone as we are putting an Airbnb together, and there's no quiet space. So if you see hammering or hear hammering in the background or saws or anything, it's just the name of the game. Welcome back, though. Thank you for joining us. Today we have Jordan. Welcome, Jordan.
Hi.
And we are going to dig into everything that Jordan does, related and unrelated to short-term rentals today. And so, as we all know, we start every single episode with an Airbnb horror story, and Jordan has one to share with us today. So I will let you break the ice with that story.
I'm glad that everyone has this as opposed to like, yep, I get to do this and tell you guys about a horror story. So part of my company is collaborating with short-term rentals and creating content and marketing assets, and we'll get more into that. And so trying to onboard new homes and let them know about experiences. And this is back a couple years ago when I was still living in Los Angeles. I'm now currently in Denver. We went out to Joshua Tree and I pitched this guy who has about 12 homes out there. He like rebuilds all of them and he's very proud of it. And he was like on this fence of, he's like, I don't want people to know who I am, but also I want them to like give me credit for how beautiful these homes are. And it was just a little bit of like, a god complex or like God's gift to earth that he's making these beautiful homes, and like they were nice homes and it's nice property and he was doing really good work. And so we coordinated a setup where I would shoot at two of his homes and let him kind of see what the company is about. And he was checking in constantly of being like, are you at the house yet? We rushed the cleaners. Are you there? Are you there? I was like, no, sorry, we got a little late start. We'll be there for sunset, so we're gonna get like the best time anyways. We're like, traffic out of LA isn't the best either. And of course, the first house that we stay at that he's freaking out about, there's ants everywhere in the kitchen and all that. And just like, he's like complaining about us. And then the second house that we go to, once again, he's like, are you there yet? I'm rushing my, cleaners. You left the other house so dirty. And I was like, we cleaned all the dishes. Like, what do you mean? Like, sorry that we didn't make the bed. Like, I'm confused. And we get to the second house and there's a sewage problem there. And the whole house smells like rotten milk, essentially, or something along those lines. And we're like, cool, man, you're freaking out and your houses aren't like, it's like this balance of just kind of being like, bring it down a little bit. And so we still got great shots out of it. Obviously, the house has presented itself that way, but it was a nightmare of experience because I've worked with a bunch of homes and homeowners and property managers that are just kind of like, the more that they just understand it and they're like, do your thing, have a great time, and hands off is, but that sticks out the most. And he obviously didn't join the company. And we were like, kind of like, it's probably best that you're not on here either. I don't want other people engaging with that.
Oh my gosh. That's the thing is like, you hire the experts. Just let
Mhm.
them do their job and leave it up to them. That why like have people come if you're not going to trust the experts to do their job? We
Exactly.
say that constantly to people. It was like when we were designing, we were like, we know what we're doing. Stop micromanaging us.
Uh,
Yeah.
mhm.
Well, and also it's like the emotional attachment that he clearly has to his
Sure.
properties. Like you see that all the time with new hosts, or like, a lot of times people when they're becoming a host, they'll rent out the space that they live in first to kind of dip their toes in.
Mhm.
And that can be like the worst and the best thing in the entire world. Like best thing because you don't have to invest an arm and a leg, but worst thing because you're like so hypersensitive when people are like barely touch the bed or like use a dish that's like your grandmother's dish or whatever.
Absolutely.
So, oh, that sounds super stressful.
Yeah, there's always those memes too that talk about like working with different clients. Like the one client that paid you $50 is like, "Hey, can we redo this and change this?" And like the one that pays you $5,000 is you submit and they're like, "Great, thank you so much. The money's on the way. It should be, like it's just those people that understand that
Yeah.
sometimes that it's just you're paying this person for their expertise and just trust them. Give them the guidance and then sit back and accept it.
Yeah, it's nice to get it out of the way though and know like immediately you're like, probably not a good fit, probably not somebody we want to work with anyways, before you got further down the road and then it blows up to be
Exactly.
something even bigger.
Yeah, like being the one of the co-founders of StayAMO, so to have me just experience that and just be like, okay, this guy is just not a fit, versus one of our other creators, and then they're complaining, and then they're both complaining to us, and like now we're trying to figure out like he said she said stuff, and this one's just kind of like, this isn't a good fit. There's plenty of other vacation rentals. There's plenty of other people that we can work with, and you just don't understand our business model and how this should run. So it's okay. And sometimes, you have to understand that too, walking away from a deal, as much as having those 13 homes on our platform for Joshua Tree and how many creators are in LA would have been awesome. It's just not the fit, and that's okay.
Yeah, not every client is a good fit, and that's okay.
Yeah. So before we kind of dig into StayAMO and what you do you partner with Hygie Rentals out in Hygie Home Rentals out in Joshua Tree?
That's so funny that you
Hi,
said that.
Hygie.
I follow them on Instagram personally. I'm almost positive because they they are on our site, and that's why, or maybe not, and I'm just doing my due diligence to just like circle them and be like, hey, your properties are awesome, like I'd love to. I know I've been seeing a lot more of their stuff. They've been a lot more active on social recently too, so their houses are beautiful.
Yeah, the guy's name is Bryce Cano,
Okay.
who we've talked to, and he's like the main guy that
Oh,
is on the
nice.
social media accounts.
Yeah. I mean, we've had him on the podcast before, and he's got such a tunnel vision on like experience based properties in Joshua Tree. So all of his are like the ones that have like drive-in movie theaters and like the
That's
cowboy
awesome.
pools and just extravagant things. So might be a good fit.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. So I'm gonna assume that he's not, but like I am following that and circling that wagon a little bit. And that's funny that you say the like specific experiences, because I just put together, I'm gonna post it live today, is a this house that I stayed at in Joshua Tree 2 weeks ago that had this secret room in one of the rooms that like you open up, and they called it like the hot box, and they made it like a jungle, and there's a giant stuffed, like I opened it and there's a giant stuffed tiger in there, and it was just because of like the situation, it like freaked me out. I was like, whoa, oh my. But yeah, to have those specific experiences at the house, this was like a 70s themed house, but had this secret room that was like totally different to the rest of the place. And just to have those kind of experiences just really do stand out.
That is really cool. Yeah, and I feel like Joshua Tree is like, you have to have those kind of properties in Joshua Tree that are really experience based and really stand out, because it's such a specific market and people go there so often and spend so much money going there that you have to stand out amongst your competition there, or else you are not getting booked. Like, you're competing against the invisible house. So that's like hard competition to have.
100%.
It's so true. That is like my golden goose of all the Airbnbs. I stare at that invisible house and I'm like, one day.
There's this other house that I found recently that's out there. I think it's called the Kinsey House. I'll have to send it to you guys, that I just saw. It's like $8,000 a night, but the rooms there, the whole house is just like, you honestly feel like you're in Star Trek, or like this whole new world. Like one of the master bedrooms is just panel windows looking out onto the mountains of Joshua Tree. And I reached out to them. I was hopeful. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be out there for a week. I see that you have the availability. Can I just come in the afternoon and like just to look at it, just walk through, give you videos, anything to just kind of experience that. So yeah, it's cool stuff out there.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, like, actually go to the invisible house, because I've seen so many influencers go there at this point that I have it like built up in my head. But there's a pool like in the main living area, and all I'm thinking is it smells like chlorine in that whole house. Like, it has to,
That's
right?
so true. I haven't even thought of that, because you're like, damn, that's awesome, but then you forget that like to keep that clean, you gotta do that.
But
That's
maybe
so
not.
funny.
Maybe it's a saltwater pool, and I mean, they use a little bit of chlorine in saltwater pools, but maybe they have something to where it doesn't. But that's all I think of, is like, it's so luxurious, and then it probably smells like chlorine.
That'd be interesting. Now I have to go experience it. That's
You'll
so
have to let
funny.
us know if you go and it
Okay.
smells like chlorine, because I really want to know. And I don't see myself getting to Joshua Tree anytime soon. So
Okay. Where are you guys based?
Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Way far away.
Yeah. Okay.
Out in the Midwest.
Okay, so for our listeners who don't know what you do, will you give them like a background on why you started your company, how it came to life, what you do, kind of the whole nine yards?
Yeah, absolutely. So for 5.5 years, I have been creating content full time, adventuring with my two dogs, Zeus and Sedona. I had a viral video happen. I rescued my dogs December of 2016, and the video went viral in 2017 in May. So a lot of people have seen it, and so it's me rescuing my dogs in the desert on the way up to the Grand Canyon, and that gave me a large.
I have seen,
Yeah,
yeah,
see,
I can see that video. Okay, I did
So
not
yeah,
make the
that's
connection.
me. Yep. Hi. I love when that happens. It's so funny. And so yeah, so I had always worked in media and production for my entire career. I was like 8 years deep, and when that happened, I had ran social media for ESPN, the NFL, Pepsi, Insomniac. They throw music festivals, all that kind of stuff. So social media and production has always been my background. And so when I was traveling with my dogs, this was one of my first road trips I ever took with them. On my way back, I reached out to two Airbnbs in Joshua Tree and one in Zion. And surprisingly enough, all three of them said yes to let me stay for free for photos, which is like at that time also, I'm like, wait, what is happening here? This is incredible. And actually, the property owner at the time of the Zion cabin was like, "Hey, I know a lot of other people who own properties out here. Like, there should be a place that influencers or content creators can, come and shoot and stay and help market and promote." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be really cool." And about a year and a half passed after that of just kind of like, I don't know how to. I'm not tech savvy like that. I don't know how to build an app or do things. And um, a friend of mine who is just a travel nurse, but she stays at really does a lot of cool vacationing and all that. Stayed at this cool Airbnb, posted it, and then the account Best of Airbnb shared it. And I was like, "Wait, what is happening here?" And so I reached out to the guy who was running that, and he lived out in LA, still does, and I was living in LA at the time. And I was like, "Hey, I'd love to work with you and collab." And we started talking a bit more and more, and then we met up for like coffee or a drink or something like that and talked more about this business plan, and was like, okay, there's something here for us. And so in January of 2019, we launched StayAMO. And quick elevator pitch of what StayAMO is: it's a marketplace that connects vacation rentals from around the world with content creators. And in exchange for free stays, the content creator provides photos, videos, posts on their page to help exposure, that the homes can then use for, or hotels can use for, marketing and added just like features into their property.
Awesome. Well, one, I don't know how I didn't make that connection because I was like looking at your stuff and I obviously saw that you
Uh,
travel with your dogs and I saw that one was named Zeus. My cats are Athena and Aphrodite. So I was like, oh,
oh,
cool, like a nice
nice.
connection. But I don't know why I didn't make the connection all the way back then, but I've absolutely
Uh-huh.
seen that video. But
Yeah.
that's, we always talk about all the time how like we wanted to get into that, right? We were like, we want to go stay at these properties. We review properties all the time. We do like wine Wednesdays and
Mhm,
we're reviewing properties and people ask us for tips on their properties all the time. So our idea was always like we can go and stay and then give them tips on like things that we think that they could improve for their guests and things like that. And we just think that there's such a benefit to having people come and stay in your space and kind of advertise it for you. And so I think StayAMO is just like a fantastic platform to have that option.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry.
And no, you're you're fine. I'm like turning it on and off mute
Mhm,
because of all the chaos in the background. But honestly, I mean, when we record videos, so far we haven't like collaborated with any host and we haven't been like, "Hey, we're coming to like create content specifically around your B&B." But we
mhm,
stay at B&Bs all the time when we travel. And so when we do, because our entire social media following is people who are involved in Airbnb, mostly
mhm,
hosts, those videos do the best where we go in and we're just like, hey, here's three things that we would have done differently, here's three things that they really rocked,
mhm.
and those are always the one that goes viral. So we're like, when we saw what you did, we were like, brilliant. Like
Thank
he
you.
thought of it way before we did, but this is so necessary in the space.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And one thing too that I think is lacking is that so many people, they get their property, or even hotels now, it's a very antiquated way of doing it, is just showing the property bare. And at this point in time, with how popular social media is, we're not going back. Social media is not going anywhere. The way that people want to share these experiences and doing that. And how many times have you gone to a hotel or maybe even a B&B where they just have an empty room and you think it's so much bigger than what it is? Like I've walked into countless hotels where it's like, wait, this is it? I thought this was going to be so much bigger. And so once you apply lifestyle photography of people sitting on the bed, standing on the porch, doing whatever, people can then visualize themselves there. They have context of the space. So there's no fooling with it. Granted, you can't share smells, so we don't know if the invisible house smells like pure chlorine. But aside from that, you get a context of how, and people want that experience. They then be like, I want to be there. I want to be in that room, that house, that angle. I want those shots. I want to share this and also have this experience. And as TikTok is popping off more and reels are becoming more and more, that you get that video walkthrough, that full experience that people can then really experience the house before they book it, which I think is a huge value add.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you walk us through, like, I guess the experience for how a host like contacts the influencers through StayAMO and like what that
Mhm.
process really looks like for people to get influencers into their space?
Yeah, of course. So it works both sides, that both content creators can reach out to the homes and the homes can reach out to the content creators. And essentially what it is, how I like to like be tongue in cheek about it, is it's kind of like a dating app where these homes are willing to provide you for the stays. And these are creators that we have, not everyone that applies to be on the site from both a creator side and a home side get to come on. So these are creators that if they fit your aesthetic, then cool, come together, find a weekend or weekday or whatever it is, whatever you're willing to, work on, and come and create. And so, how it is usually what happens is just we're the meeting ground and then we're the after effect spot. And that, once again, kind of like a dating app in a sense that you guys meet and then you go offline because it's just easier to communicate versus with email or text or through Instagram or however it is, just the more popular ways of communication, but we're that entry level introduction spot. And so what I tell homes, especially early on, some of the best practices, just because a creator reached out to you and they ask for a weekday that you do have available doesn't mean you have to work with them. If you don't like their aesthetic, if you don't think that's the right fit, or if you just had a creator at your spot and you're like, I'm kind of good, let me see how these play out first, whatever it is you're not forced to just because it works out or the timing is. And making sure we can definitely get more into the education side of things and the importance and the best practices that we've seen. But from a top level experience of what our site is, and it's free to join for both sides, to just kind of get connected and yeah, help market your place and build relationships, because a lot of property owners have multiple properties, and that's what we tell the creators is go and crush this first one, over deliver on the first one, because there's a good chance that they know other people and or they have multiple other properties that you now just built this relationship and you get to go now travel that much more for free or even start to get paid because they love the work that you do.
Yeah. Are there, like, parameters around like, when an influencer is going into a host's home and creating content,
Mhm.
are there parameters around what that content needs to contain? Like, when we work with brands, they kinda send out, like, "Look, we really wanna focus on X, Y, or Z," right? We're really trying to, like, push this feature on whatever else. Is it
Mhm.
the same thing with hosts and creators in your, situation, or is it, like, really kind of free reign, like, you create what you create and
Yeah, so once again, I think we just give kind of a outline of best practices and what they should be looking to do. And some homes are looking for more video, some homes are looking for more photos, and that it's all the relationship and the communication that they have with one another. So yeah, like I don't think we're not sitting here being like, you have to deliver this, you have, like, and what we tell the homes as well is that just getting a post on some influencer's page, influence, I hate that word so much too, is like, especially in the vacation rental space, is that it is so hard to actually show proof of bookings through that, just because if you have a really nice house, you're likely booked out for the next 2 months. And so for people who see that, the conversion is "Ooh, your house is beautiful. When is it available? How much does it cost? Where is it located? How convenient can I get there? Like, do I even want to, there's a guy, Levi Kelly, who does great work, and all of his homes, every single time I'm like, that is beautiful. Where is that? And I've stopped doing this because they all end up being in the middle of Ohio. So I'm like, I'm not going to Ohio, but like, yes, that house is beautiful. And so I just assume that he's usually shooting in Ohio. And if like every now and then I'll check in on the location, and if it's somewhere else, it's like, let's add that to the list. And and he's found his niche on that, and he's traveled beyond it. But there are certain people, so it all kind of depends in that space. But I do think getting assets for the home's use is where the wins come in and where the IOI comes out.
100%. That makes a ton of sense. And it's like, it's same thing for us. Like, we've got a pretty robust social media following on TikTok and a little bit on Instagram. And like, unless somebody tells us that they saw us on socials and that's how they found the booking, I mean, all bookings come through Airbnb. So we don't even know the impact that our presence for our own properties is really having on our properties. It's like, okay, well, we have higher than average occupancy, but is it due to design? Is it due to social media? Like,
Yeah.
where is that landing? It's hard to track.
Totally, and then I also think from like a StayAMO standpoint is like the respecting the craft and the work, and going back to like a little horror story is I was coordinating with a guy who just came onto our site, had beautiful homes in southern Utah, and I was like, I love traveling through there. I can plan a road trip, and he's like, cool. So I'm gonna want 100 photos, and also I can give you like one night to stay, and also we'll do a tracking link to see how well. And I'm just like, I'm happy to jump on a phone call, but I need to respect myself and make sure that like we're managing expectations here, because that's insane from a like deliverable standpoint, as well as just being like, if I don't get 5 bookings from this, and it's just like, you have to I just don't think that there are that many creators out there that can do that truthfully. Like, back in 2016 or something, maybe when Do You Travel posted about like Hideout Bali, like I booked a trip to Bali because of that and to stay at that place. Granted, it was like $60 a night, and I was like, cool, let's do this, and I'll figure out a flight from there. And I stayed, and it was awesome. But I just don't, because of how popular like B&Bs are all over the place, and just how many like creators or people who think that they're influencers, there's just so many beautiful homes out there. So it's just kind of like it's a slow burn, and homes need to know that. And at the same time, you need to create features in your house that will entice people to come.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and also it's like to have, I think you said it best when you said managing expectations, because it's like, okay, let's think about like before social media. Like if you were putting an ad in a magazine, how are you going to track that it came from that magazine? If you were like putting it on a
Sure.
billboard, how are you going to track that that billboard is worth it? So all of a sudden, when you know that all of people's attention is on social media nowadays, like that that's the most profitable place to be spending your marketing dollars,
Hmm.
why are you now trying to like track the conversion as tightly as you are? Because we get that all the time. I mean, people really are trying to track it, and it's it turns into a muddled mess.
Yeah, and I understand. Like, I think it's easier if like if you have an like, I don't know, just a smaller product. The thing that I always say with like how you can tell sometimes with like someone with true influence or something is like, hey, buy this like T-shirt, and the T-shirt sells out, or like things like that is. But also that's an easy conversion of $20 that people, you can make 3 clicks and you spend $20, and people aren't even like comprehending that, versus a weekend away and how much it costs and who else is coming with me and the planning and all of that. And once again, if your home is really nice, like you're likely booked out for a lot of times, or the weekends that people want to do it. So you have to be patient with it. Like, once again, that's what we're trying to, we can talk a lot more about different best practices or strategies as well, if you want to jump into that at that point.
Yeah. Well, I do have a question about, because like we're obviously talking a lot
Mhm.
about social media and your platform has a lot to do with content creation. So, how do you think that like a social presence has changed entrepreneurship for people who are entrepreneurs, or like people who are influencers using their influence to like sell and promote and stuff like that? How do you think that's like made such a difference in like probably the past 10 years, really?
For sure. I think I read a study that said like it's the number one like wanted job from high schoolers, moving forward. And I mean, there's in any job there's pros and cons, and the idea of just being like, hey, I get to just like live my life and share it and do that, and so I think there's definitely value and opportunities that come from, I mean, admittedly, having a blue check mark on Instagram for the last couple years has allowed me to send messages to companies and things and get noticed a bit easier. So I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it and be like, social media is just like, it is what it is. If you have 500 followers or whatever, it does. You are able to infiltrate certain people or certain businesses, and being able to communicate, and opportunities can come to you. And so I mean, the homes that have larger followings are able to charge more and book out more, and do that just the way that creators who have a larger following are able to do the same. And at the same time, what I tell a lot of our creators is that there is a huge value, especially in our space, for the creators that have like 10,000 or less, maybe even 15,000 or less, who have the dedicated following. Those micro influencers are powerful. I promise you, they're powerful. But also who are just hustling and create beautiful work that just don't have the following, that the algorithm is just not giving them that opportunity. But there's a guy that I follow on TikTok, has 7,000 followers. He has, I don't even know how many he has on Instagram. It's not a lot. And I love his work and I support him. And I think that I'm investing in him now, expecting him to blow up very soon. So there are people that want this, and that there is value that, yes, I know certain homes are going to be like, I want to work with someone with like 50,000 or more. But then people are narcissistic. People are, like, then have a little like, well, I have 50,000, you should be paying me, or this or that, versus like someone who has 10,000 followers, 5,000 followers, who's like, I'm here hustling for you, that you make a deal with them for 15, 20 photos, and they're like, hey, here's 40. And you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, these are 40 amazing photos also, like, and I want to keep working with this guy. Cool. I'll pay you a couple $100 and know that I'm going to get amazing work and you're an awesome person. So once again, the pros and cons to it, we can't, like I said, social media is here to stay, and we need to, you either embrace it or you don't. And also you got to take some breaks from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you really bring up a good point too, because it's not really about the number of followers you have. It really is about the quality of followers that you have.
Hmm.
And I think that we've experienced that along the way, where it's like, we're still growing our social media presence, and we would consider ourselves a micro influencer. And even even at that level, even at a level where it's like not huge yet, right? We're not even close
Hmm.
to a blue check mark by any means, but the opportunities and doors that it's opened for us just by being able to be seen by the people who are relevant to us, right? It's
Hmm.
like you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of followers to be seen by the right people and to work with the right
Exactly.
people. And so it does have so much power, even if you are at a smaller scale. I mean, it is like flipped our lives upside down. And again, we don't have a gazillion followers. So yeah, completely agree with you there that like it's not really about the number, it's about the quality of people that are following you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I have another question for you. As far as, I mean, I know you specialize in the short-term rental space. Do you
Hmm.
expand beyond that, like connecting people with like boutique hotels or like, you know, anything outside of specifically Airbnbs?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do part of StayAMO is boutique hotels. We have one in Denver here specifically. I've shot with one in Scottsdale, Oklahoma City. So we're definitely intrigued by the smaller boutique hotels that, once again, have that unique look to them, or that can provide some photography that people would want to stay at. I know there's Stay Pineapple as well, that I've had a lot of conversations with. They're a bit more in major cities. And yeah, I think it's important to just kind of like, StayAMO and just marketing your place isn't just for B&Bs, because I think there's that back and forth tug in terms of people just liking hotels and not having those added cleaning fees and doing all that other stuff, and feeling like they need to, like, there was definitely a lot of pushback this summer I saw on the internet with people being like, cool, so I'm staying at this house paying for a cleaning fee and you're asking me to take out the trash, do the dishes, put the bed and like all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, I think like Airbnbs needed that call out. And I think those who looked at that need to just be like, obviously don't leave the house trashed, but like if you're gonna pay a cleaning fee, like what are you like what's happening here? Um, so there are still people that love hotels, and I think the value for those boutique hotels to kind of stand out beyond the bigger like Hiltons and all that kind of stuff. You got to use this model as well.
Yeah. And you just don't want to pin yourself down to like only Airbnbs, right? Like there is
Hmm.
other options. People do stay other places, like you said. And so they also need to be able to market their places, and people like to stay there too. So everybody likes options.
Absolutely.
But I think that boutique hotels have done a really great job of like understanding that Instagrammable moment is what we say when we're designing Airbnbs is like
Hmm.
nowadays, I mean, when you used to travel and you'd be seen per se, like you'd get all dressed up and you'd have a night on the town and you'd travel to these big cities and that was the idea of being seen, right? And now it's like,
Hmm.
okay, you can go to this like really remote place and you can take these Instagram pictures and it like serves the same like vain situation that we have where we want to like show off our big moments in life. But I think that boutique hotels have done a really great job of understanding that as well. I mean, you're starting to see them pop up all over the place where it's like here in Michigan, not a thing yet, right? Like boutique
Interesting.
hotels still
Okay.
are like side of the road, like haven't been redone since the 70s, like really, really crappy boutique hotels.
Uh huh.
But then you're seeing it pop up in California, pop up in, much more populated places. And all of a sudden there's like this revamp. It's like a Schitt's Creek real life Instagrammable
Yeah.
moment that we're loving. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I think that we're going to see way more of those pop up here in the future as Airbnb starts getting more robust and we start really bridging that gap between hotels and Airbnbs.
Of course. Yeah, I think you made such a great point about how we travel now, where, yes, being out on the town and showing how good you looked and all that kind of stuff, or like the fun activity that you were doing. But there is a little braggadocious element of staying at a really awesome Airbnb and being like, yeah, I found that. Yeah, it was available while I was that. Like, look how cool this was. Like, if you're going to travel to wherever, like, they have places like this, or you're going to want to stay at this place only, like seeing that, going back to like the hideout Bali thing where it's like, where is like, I need to stay. That's amazing. And to create that element is so that's where people are shifting a little bit, where anytime I go to Joshua Tree, like, yeah, you can go to like Pappy and Harriet's, which is like this very famous bar and all that, but these homes are so amazing. It's like, I'm just going to stay and cook dinner and look at the stars from the hot tub. Like, well, I don't need to go anywhere. Like, we just drove 2 hours to get here. Like, I don't want to touch my car.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like on some of these places, because of the social media following and like them being Instagrammable, they have like a cult following of the property
Mhm.
itself, like the Invisible House, or like Sarah went and stayed at the Ledge in Ohio. And when she went and stayed there,
Oh,
I
nice.
didn't know that's where she was going, and I texted her and I was like, I've been following this property and watching YouTube videos about this property for years, and like I'm
Hmm.
obsessed with it, and I've always wanted to go there. And so there's like a cult following because of social media and advertising these places at this point. It's just completely changed the game.
Yeah. And I want to jump on this, like, the strategy that we really try to focus on, and a learning that we had early on, that, okay, so Emily, you had been following this house for a really long time, and obviously their page was probably really well curated as well. So you consistently, every time they posted, you're like, man, I gotta stay. Like, it builds this like FOMO, and for those listening, fear of missing out, like of needing to stay there. And so early on in StayAMO, I had a big travel influencer, one of the OG travel influencers, Fun for Louie. Do you guys know who that
Yes,
is?
my
Mhm.
husband's
Yeah. So
obsessed with Fun for Louie.
okay. Yeah. So I got connected with him through some social groups when I was living in LA. And I was like, hey, let me get you and your friends out to this like cabin in Lake Arrowhead. It'll be awesome. Like, it'll sleep all you guys, all this kind of stuff. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And so he has like 2 million followers on Instagram, and his whole crew has anywhere from like 60 to 150,000 followers, all blue check marks. And we were like, we're going to pop off this house. This is like StayAMO's. This is like a huge thing. And so they're there at the house, they're posting stories, they're sharing about it, they post about it. and the house is getting insane traffic that they've never seen before, obviously because he has a loyal following and it's the right space. But the house's Instagram sucked. It didn't have it had like photos of their dog and like iPhone 5 photo, like stuff like that that just it didn't translate to the audience. So they didn't grow from that to then expand to then people in the California area or anyone just traveling through wanting to then stay there in the future. So the strategy that we always say, and this goes back to working with the smaller creators, is get your page looking beautiful. Get your page looking right, both on a Airbnb side or wherever you're like booking stuff, as well as your social media pages, so that when it's time to finally have a big creator stay there, that when the eyeballs go there, they translate of being like, oh, this page, I got to remember to stay at this place, as opposed to just being like, oh, that would have been fun, and you just move on with your day. Like you need to grab people's attention. Like we gotta. That's the age that we're living in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So do you think this is kind of a personal question because
Mm-hmm.
we our social media following is very much like they're following us, right? They're not following our properties as much as they're following our process. And so, how that translates to our properties, we don't really understand. But we haven't really spent a lot of time on developing like a specific Instagram for our individual properties
Mm-hmm.
because they stay pretty booked up and it hasn't been something that we've spent a lot of time on.
Why not?
How well, right, I'm like, "Sell me on it." Like, how important do you think that element is that each individual property has a well-curated Instagram specifically for the property?
I think it's really important. There's certain management companies that just have one page and it shows all their houses, and I think it's pretty jumbled. You just I don't know, when you have that one dedicated page for that home, you're able to focus your attention on that one home. And so you may have that one photo that goes really well, or just kind of the slow getting into the algorithm and people seeing that. And I do think that Instagram, as frustrating as it is like doing a good job to introduce you to new accounts. And if you start following more homes, your home is next in line. And why wouldn't you want to take that opportunity to be next in line to do that? And to have someone come and take photos, or for you to walk around and take photos yourself and just have be like, hey, tag us here, and have that and create UGC that way. And maybe someone takes really good photos, or you come to StayAMO and do that. That's the whole intention of it. And so if you're trying, like, it kind of goes back to like people who are all about money just want to make more money. And so if your home is about this and it's a place that you love and you want it to be booked out, like why wouldn't you want it to be booked out more? Why wouldn't you want your nightly rates to be more? And those go hand in hand, and marketing comes in with that. So why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Have you had any nightmare scenarios with, like, guests getting to a property and, like, giving it like, all of a sudden, a host having these expectations of, like, it's gonna be really great publicity for my property, and
Mhm.
then, like, an influencer get there and they'd be like, "No, like, don't come here."
Um, Thankfully not. We've had some situations where like the home was like, "Hey, it's been a month and we haven't gotten our deliverables yet," and I've been messaging them and they're not responding, and then like a week later they and then it's like, "Okay, it's all good. Like, just be better communicating." Or I don't think we've had any situations with like homes where it's like, "Wait, this is not right."
Yeah.
Right.
Thankfully.
That's
And we
nice.
do our due diligence on both sides of like creator side and home sides, like I was saying, to like review the spaces and
Yeah.
the creators.
Yeah, I ask because I'm, like, currently going through, like, a mini nightmare situation with my own property. I had an influencer. Do you follow or have you ever followed Tucker and Todd Budson on socials?
No.
They're, like, 2
Uh-uh.
golden retrievers that are, like
Oh, nice.
they have, like, 10 million followers on
Oh,
TikTok, they've got 3
wow.
million followers on Instagram, like, she has a 500,000 on her own like, there's millions, literally
Wow.
millions. They booked our Airbnb without we didn't reach out to them, we didn't ask, they just
Uh-huh.
booked it on their own. And nothing, I mean, my property was fine, like it wasn't anything that I did wrong, but on their way there, their GPS like got them lost, and when they got lost on the way there, there's like a dog that came out of nowhere that like attacked their car and like scratched up the side of their car. Like they're gonna have to repaint their car. It's so bad. And then my neighbor, who has been done with construction on his house for like 2 months, decided to have it power washed this weekend. And it was like 6 hours straight of the neighbor power washing their
Oh
home.
my
So it was like just
God.
this obnoxious amount of noise. So I was like so excited for her to stay there. I like, decked the house out, like bought the dogs
Yeah.
treats, like got her a s'mores kit, really tried to go above and beyond. And then like
Hmm.
circumstances outside of my own, just like I'm like watching her stories, like
That's That's so unlucky and such an unfortunate thing, but I do wanna touch on you, like, trying to curate the best experience for them and giving them s'mores or dog treats or things like that, and if you have special features at your home and you're having a creator stay there that A, if it can be an upsell in certain situations, but also just, like, the general vibe that, like, can add into someone taking photos or doing that, I can't emphasize enough. I had a call just yesterday with a guy who has a couple properties in Seattle where he's like, "So when you come out, like, are you cool going to like restaurants and things like that? Like, can we coordinate with that with you? We have good relationships with the restaurants." And it's like, yeah, if you want to curate this whole lifestyle experience of what you can get and how you can do it the same way that you're saying, like the s'mores kit and all that, just anything that you can do to showcase that people are going to be like, I want that at that place,
right.
do that, especially like if you're using this time as marketing dollars, however you want to like do the math in your head, do it. It's worth it. An extra $50 to get two bookings that could come from that. Obviously, like we're saying, it's a little difficult to totally track, but there's I've seen so much success through that when it comes to those added amenities and features.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
shows a
You
more
want them to have a good
well-rounded
time.
experience too, that
Yes.
they're like, if they're just staying at the property and you do have good restaurants nearby, nobody's actually going to know that until they get to your property and they get in the guest book,
Hmm.
unless you have the influencer or content creator or whatever go out and actually look at that stuff as well. So setting up the entire experience for them just helps you in the long run.
Absolutely. 100%.
100%. Yeah. Well, I have one last question here for you, and it might take a minute to answer. We can kind of dig
Okay.
into it. I mean, now that you've been around short-term rentals for a while, you're, exposed to a bunch of hosts. I'm sure you're aware of the
Mhm.
money that short-term rentals is bringing in for hosts. Do you plan yourself to expand into owning properties, or are you just honed in on this platform?
Yes, I would love to. I think it's so fun. My business partner is actually building two properties out in Joshua Tree right now, and he's like, "Yeah, we're looking to expand." And I was like, "Get me in on the next round of all of that." And yeah, I think it's such a cool and unique space to be in, and to be able to build something like that and have people share it and love it so much. I think is really awesome. As of right now, I'm just taking advantage of other people's properties and the business that I created and going and traveling because I love traveling and staying at beautiful homes. And it has been like the niche for me that I've created over the last couple of years. And so I'm here just like, pushing out as many homes as I can to show to my audience and to show what StayAMO can do. And so long run, yes, short term, pun not intended, like I'm just enjoying myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it does take up a lot of time, no doubt. But I mean, there are opportunities like you're mentioning where people are, starting situations where you can partner and have it be passive and still have a
Hmm.
piece of the pie. So that might be a good fit
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have for you
Yeah.
today. Emily, do you have any left?
I think that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. If you would like for our audience to be able to find you, can you plug all the things that they can find you on?
Yeah, of course. If you want to apply, just go to stayamo.com. So it's STAYAMO. We're on Instagram at stayamo, and we are launching TikTok as well, which is stayamo.com. And if you want to reach out to me personally, I am at Jordan Kahana at all socials.
Awesome. And I will make sure I link everything in the bio below so you guys can find them and him super easily. And we're at the Carwells as usual on everything if you guys are not following us as well. And yeah, thanks again for coming on. For our listeners, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode and catching up with us. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.